Welcome to the wonderful world of marketing. Today we're going to talk about a concept that I like to refer to often called Copernican shift. And so I want to spend a few minutes just talking about what a Copernican shift is and sort of give you a few examples of what Copernican shifts are. That would be kind of an interesting way to kind of kick off discussions of disruptive marketing and changes that are occurring in the industry. So Nicholas Copernicus was a pretty cool guy. He was Polish. Born in 1453 or something like that, and he was deacon in the church. He was a Polish academic astronomer, and part of what he wanted to do was have a more reliable calendar for the church. The church at the time had a Ptolemaic view of the universe. And the Ptolemaic view had the Earth at the center of the universe with everything moving around it. You know, it's kind of easy to make fun of people for having that point of view, and believe it or not, there's still a few people who have it. But it's really kind of understandable in the ancient world. If you stood in a field, and in the morning in the east the sun would come up, and in the evening it would go down in the west, and then sure enough the next day it would come back up in the east and it would go down in the west. And if you stood there for a few days, it would be pretty easy to conclude that the sun was actually rotating around the earth and the earth was stable. And so based on those observations, people came to a conclusion. Now, of course, that conclusion was wrong. I mean, in fact, desperately wrong. Not only is the earth moving around the sun, the earth's moving at incredible speeds around the sun. Copernicus came along, and in this Ptolemaic view of the universe, celestial mechanics are very hard to predict. They were using a set of mathematical formulas to predict the seasons based on a flawed view of reality. So Copernicus spent a lot of time, and at first he thought he was going to add those last few calculations necessary to perfectly predict how everything was working. But over time he came to the conclusion that in fact putting the earth at the center was the problem. And really it was the sun that was at the center and the earth was rotating around it. So he wrote a paper on this. It was heretical. And Copernicus was smart enough to know that he really shouldn't release it but while he's alive. So the legend has it that the first edition of the book was given to him on his deathbed, which is pretty cool. It was released, and it took a few decades to kind of get into circulation and get well known, but eventually it changed our conception of the universe. Of course, not before the church had burned a few people at the stake and had their usual fun with heretics. And so, and today, most people credit Copernicus with really unlocking the entire scientific revolution that gives us the ability to talk to each other through YouTube and have all the kinds of interesting interactions we have with technology now. What was it that Copernicus really did? And I think this is the important thing, because Copernicus didn't really invent anything. But what he really did is he matched the reality of what was going on to the perception of what was going on. Suddenly everything fell into place. Things like the retrograde motion of Mars, which was almost impossible to understand in an Earth-centric universe, became very easy to understand in a sun-centric universe. And of course the calendar started working as well. What does that mean for us in marketing? And what I like to try to tell my teams and myself to do all the time is to keep making Copernican shifts. And in our next installment, we're going to talk a little bit about some examples of Copernican shifts and how do you look for those every single day in the job that you do. And that's all for today. Thanks for coming to the wonderful world of marketing.